Welcome to my channel. I am GB Bello. I started drawing a pattern for a knicker and a shirt for a 4-year-old. So if you didn't see that, make sure you watch the previous video. In this video now, I'm going to draw a pattern for the shirt. We've already drawn a pattern for the knicker. Now I'm going to draw a pattern for the 4-year-old shirt. Don't forget, if you have not downloaded the shirt making course, use the link in the description to download it. There I put the detail of how to make shirt. I won't really go into the details here anymore because I've already done many videos on it and you can download it for just a token. So now let's get to the table. So I'm going to start with the neck. The neck is 13. So okay, before I even go to the neck, the first thing I'm doing is to fold the button stand. So the button stand for this one, because it's a boy, it's a child, I'm using 1.5. So I folded 1.5 for the button stand. This is the front pattern of the shirt. Then the next thing is neck is 13. So I'm going to use for the front width, I'm using 2 inches. 2 inches for the front width. Then for the front depth, I'm using 2 1/4 inch. 2 1/4. So that's what I'm using, and I'm going to rule it. Make sure you download the shirt making course. You will have all the details. Even the workbook contains neckline tables, so you won't need to do any calculation again. So I'm going to cover it. Here's the neckline. So that is that. The shoulder is 11 divided by 2. That's 5.5. Then I'm adding just ½ sewing allowance to it. Then there I'm going to measure 1.5 down. For adult, I did 2 inches in previous videos, so you can know the difference. You can't use the same measurement for a child with that of adult. Then I'm going to slant that 1.5 to the edge of the neckline. Remember, that's the way we did it for adults too. So now his armhole is 11. So I'm going to divide that by 2. That's 5.5. So since 1.5 is here, so what will be left? It's just going to be 4 inches. Very good. So you can see this is 4 inches. And I'm going to rule that place as well. The chest is 30 inches and divided by 4, that's 7.5. Then I'll add just 1 inch sewing allowance to it. Very good. The next thing is to measure the length of the shirt. Watch how I do it. The length is 20 inches. Then the remaining 1 inch is for the hem allowance. You know, this is the front pattern. Then the half length should be around 11.5. So I'm going to rule all those places too. This is the half length where I will measure the waist. The comprehensive and detailed explanation is in the shirt making course. Make sure you download it so you can be able to understand the step-by-step guide. Now the waist is 28 divided by 4, that's 7. Then add 1 inch sewing allowance to. On the hip, I'm going to use the same thing on the chest. So 30 divided by 4 again, that's 7.5 plus 1 inch. So I'll connect all those places together. Then this is all about the front pattern of the 4-year-old shirt. Okay, I've not done the curve for the armhole. So the first thing I did on the chest is to measure 30 divided by 4, which is 7.5. Then I'm gonna rule it up here. Then I will make my curve. Don't forget the bulging rule. Make sure your bulge out a little so that it can be smart by the time you sew your fabric. All right, so now we have the armor, we have the chest, we have the waist and the hip. The next thing is just to cut. Watch how I'll cut it, and we are going to use this same front pattern to go and draft our back pattern. So we are about doing the back pattern of the 4-year-old shirt. I hope you have watched the previous videos too. Alright, so this is the front pattern. I'm going to use it to draft the back pattern. So I laid it on a new pattern now. The first thing I need 3 inches down. You know the back is going to be longer, so 3 inches down, and I'm going to mark that. So the next thing I'll do is I'm going to position the pattern there on it. Then I'll mark this upper part too, which is going to be the beginning of my pattern. Then for the neckline, you know, for the front pattern, I used the front width of 2 inches. So the front width and back width is the same thing, the same 2 inches. However, for the back depth, I'm using 1.5 inch. 1.5. So I'm going to mark that as well. I'm not going into too more details. You know, the neck table for adult is in the workbook, so you won't even need to do any calculation. So the next thing I'm doing is to curve my neckline, curve my neck. So make sure you download the shirt making course and you'll be able to get all the details. Then the next thing now is to position everything the way it should be. Then I'm gonna slant this shoulder. I'm cutting now. Slant the shoulder with the way it was with the front pattern. Then you cut it. Alright, so this is it. Then I will be, let me cut this off so it won't be stuck. Then I'll be shifting the front pattern down to the very edge, last edge of the back pattern. You know, we added 3 inches to the back pattern, so I'm shifting to that base. Then, so I can fold the shoulder for the back yoke. So I can fold the shoulder for the back yoke. Make sure you watch the positioning. You know that when we are doing this, you are going to shift the front pattern out with just ½ inch. We do this for adult male too. The same thing here at the base too. So you shift the front pattern out with ½ inch. See, this is ½ inch. Then I'll lower the shoulder with ½ inch. Let it lay on the back, on the front pattern with just ½ inch. Okay, that is that. Then I'll check the shoulder again. Shoulder is 5.5, 11 inches. Then I added ½ inch for sewing. Yes, then you can now connect it together. Alright, so the next thing now is just to cut it. That is almost all with the back pattern of the 4-year-old shirt. Make sure everything is in order. You can pin your own pattern down so it won't be shifting the way it's shifting now. Or if you can hold your hand on it, lay your hand on it, hold it down, it is also okay. You can see now the shoulder laid very well. You notch it. Then we have not done the shaping, so you can either use your curve or you just use your hand to do a small shaping on the hip. so it won't. I also leave it straight. If you want it to be straight, depends on you, can leave it straight. All right, so the last thing to do on that back pattern is to cut out the back yoke. For adult shirts, I use 5.5 inches, but now for this 4-year-old shirt, I'm going to use 4 inches, and I'll rule it and cut it out for the back yoke. Make sure your hand is straight. So this is all about the back. Here I'm cutting the sleeve for the 4-year-old shirt. The length of the sleeve is 14 inches and I made it back to sleeve. So I'm going to subtract 5.5 from that, which is going to give me 8.5. Alright, so the first thing I'll do is to measure 0.5, which is going to be my sewing allowance on the upper part. Then I'll measure 3 inches here. I'll rule that as well. Then the next thing is to measure the length of the sleeve, which is going to be 8.5. Then I'm adding 1.5 for the hemming allowance. That's what I'll use to fold it up. That's what I'm using to fold it. Alright, so the next thing now is to go and measure here. I'm measuring the armhole divided by 2, which is going to be 5.5, 6. Then I'm adding 1 inch to it. Then I'm going to slant it to, I want to determine my slope, slant it to the edge. Then I'll find the midpoint of here is going to be around 4. So I will. The detail of how to cut your sleeve, you can find it also in the shirt making course. So use the link in the description to download a copy for yourself. Alright, so then this is going to be the lower slope and then this is going to be the upper slope. So let me find the midpoint of this as well. This is like 4 inches. The midpoint is going to be here. Then I'll measure ½ inch down. Then the midpoint of the upper slope is also going to be around here, so I'll measure ½ inch up. Then the next thing is to use your slope to connect your curve, to connect all that together. Then you can use this to connect this place. So we have a curve, yes, on the upper part of our slope. Now I'm coming here, the round sleeve is going to be 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Then I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance again, which I'm going to connect with here. The same thing I'll do here, 5 plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Then you know what we do. I'll add 1 inch here so I can use it to slant. And yes, that is all about the sleeve pattern for the 4-year-old shirt, and I'm just going to cut it. Then I'm going to use this pattern to cut my fabric. It's always good to cut a pattern first, so in case you make any error, you can do all the adjustments on your pattern. So that's it. Now